I don't think it's an understatement to say that we've had a rough couple of years. We had a period of major political polarization that seemed to tear apart our social fabric. Australia was on fire, a global happening locked us all in our houses while the economy crashed, and just as we were about to leave that all behind, we had a new European war, another economic crash with both the stock markets crashing, the highest inflation in decades, the highest energy prices in decades, and the highest threat of nuclear war in 60 years. It is no surprise that for the past couple years, many of us have probably had this feeling of the world going crazy.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
We might feel that the future is not brighter than the past, even that the world is doomed.
When we're all 100% for sure gonna fucking die!
Hey, Kate.
Whether that will come from an escalation of international tensions into nuclear war, climate change, total economic collapse, or something else. In 1972, MIT predicted that society would collapse around the year 2040, and so far we seem to be right on course. However, the paradoxical reality of the apocalypse we have experienced the last couple years was its mundanity. Now, I don't want to downplay the real-life consequences that these events had and are having on people. But at the same time, for a lot of us, the last couple years have looked less like this.
I'm a cannibal, hombre! We're gonna fucking eat your ass!
And more like this. The sense of impending doom that many of us have comes forth not from our actual real-life daily experiences, but through the media that we consume every day. When it comes to the news, doom and gloom sells. It gets clicks and naturally draws our attention because of our negativity bias. But there is just as much proof, if not more, that things are better than ever before. Mark Manson points out in his book Everything is Fucked, a book about hope, that professors like Steven Pinker and Hans Rosling have filled books with scientific evidence and statistics that the world is in fact doing better than ever before. Global poverty has gone down rapidly, more people are literate than ever before, crime has trended down for decades, child deaths have gone down, people are living longer, wars are smaller and less frequent than ever before, and we have cured quite a lot of diseases, and the list goes on and on. Our perception of doom and gloom and the actual reality of the state of the world are quite far apart. Now, we might argue against these ideas, pointing out that we are maybe at the apex, at the peak of the mountain of progress, at the height of decadence, that due to this unsustainable growth and the complexity of the global systems we've built, it will all come imminently crashing down. Yet, on the other hand, the apocalypse has been predicted throughout our history. The collapse of our society always seems but a moment away. Whether it was the Christian apocalypse, the Vikings' Ragnarok, Mayans predicting 2012, or doomsday preppers and the various cults that have emerged with the apocalypse as its central idea. A sense of imminent doom seems to pervade throughout human history and is reflected in many mythologies and religions.
Demon?
Yes. Fuck. That's not good. That's not good.
Now, the apocalypse may be close by, I simply don't know. I'm not gonna make a prediction if in the next 10, 100 or 1,000 years humanity will solve its problems and progress ever more forward, or either a man-made or natural disaster is going to wipe us all out. What I do want to explore is the idea that our sense of impending doom is not a result of any external circumstances, but a core internal aspect of our human psychology. As Mark Manson describes, pain is the universal constant. It is our natural baseline of being. Now, for most of us, our baseline pain is not excruciating and unbearable. We are okay, but we are also never fully content, and there might be an evolutionary advantage to this. Without this sense of dissatisfaction, we would not have created societies, kingdoms, beer, religion, science, art, skyscrapers, philosophy, McDonald's, ideologies, or spa resorts. We would still be sitting in our caves being perfectly happy instead of what seems to be an endless pursuit of completion, of arriving at a utopian destination.
I was close to being complete. Shit, man, now it's all gone.
The universal pain that drives us to do all these things is a slight pain. I've seen Louis C.K., for example, call it the forever empty.
Because, you know, underneath everything in your life, there's that thing, that empty, forever empty. You know what I'm talking about? That.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes,
Just
I know what you're
that
talking about.
knowledge that it's all for nothing and you're alone. You know, it's down there.
Another term I found is the existential hum, described as the uneasiness which keeps us moving, which never allows us to feel entirely at peace. It is a slight dissatisfaction, a gut feeling that something is just not quite right.
You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
That is so recognizable that we immediately resonate with it in movies like Fight Club, The Matrix, and more recently, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Not an existential crisis, but an always present existential background hum.
You've been feeling it too, haven't you? Something is off.
Maybe this hum is merely a reflection of a truth that we all carry with us, but are in denial of on a day-to-day basis, the fact that we are going to die. Our obsession with the end of the world could be just a reflection of our own mortality. We are all the centers of our own little universes. In our experience, the world ending and our world ending are essentially the same. The existential hum and our drive towards completion is a psychological concept that is reflected in many worldviews that have dominated our societies. In his book The Death of God and the Meaning of Life, Julian Young reflects on so-called true world philosophies that have dominated the West. These philosophies have at their core the idea that next to our flawed earthly reality, there exists another. As Young writes, a true world is a destination as such that to reach it is to enter a state of eternal bliss, a heaven, a paradise, or utopia. True world philosophies give meaning to life by turning it into a journey towards redemption, towards an arrival that will make up for the stress, discomfort, and pain of traveling. For Christianity, heaven was our destination after our life on earth, and as our societies became more secular, we hope to find it in science, political ideologies, and more recently, the individual pursuit of happiness. Nietzsche wrote, "God is dead, but given the way of men, there may still be caves for thousands of years in which his shadow will be shown." Ideologies and religions aside, I want to focus in this video on the individual pursuit of happiness. When researchers studied people's happiness levels in combination with their life circumstances, they found out that most of us rate our life pretty much a 6 or 7 out of 10 consistently, no matter our life situation. Now, of course, if a major tragedy strikes, the rating will crush down for a while, and when something great happens, it shoots up. But quicker than one might expect, we get used to our new reality and go back to our baseline of 6 or 7. And as Mark Manson puts it, this is how life tricks us. Most of us live our lives constantly chasing our imagined 10. If only we'll get that next thing, a little bit more money, a better job, a better partner, a bigger house, or a nicer holiday. The human condition is that no matter what we achieve, and no matter how sunny the skies get, our mind will always imagine just enough clouds to be slightly disappointed. As soon as life improves, our perspective changes and we find new problems to worry about and new goals to chase, and before we know it, we are mildly dissatisfied again. You might also know this principle as hedonic adaptation or the hedonic treadmill. Now, the central problem of the existential hum, our failure to find meaning to life and our failure to find a complete and lasting happiness, is that it is a fast track to pessimistic nihilism.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Come watch TV.
It is where we are confronted with Mark Manson's notion of the uncomfortable truth. We are Sisyphus, forever pushing up the boulder on the mountain. And the danger of pessimistic nihilism is that it can either lead to self-destruction, or worse, believing to be validated in destroying the world around you, destroying others.
Get what you fucking deserve!
A better and often heard approach in reaction to this problem is to not focus on happiness, but on living a virtuous life. Happiness might come and go, but ultimately it cannot be our aim. Our aim should be to live virtuously for a higher purpose of meaning and let happiness come and go as it pleases, because it is not something we can control. As is explored in Afterlife, we can be deeply miserable and still decide to try and do good in the world, to live a life of virtue and helping others. Not in pursuit of some true world utopia, but just to make life a tiny bit better for those around us.
And even though I'm in pain, it's worth sticking around to maybe make my little corner of the world a slightly better place.
That's all there is.
All in all, this is already a better answer to the meaninglessness of life, yet it is also a dangerous one to presume that we have to be miserable to live a worthwhile life. In fact, it is often the people that put dedication and effort into their own happiness that also have the energy and ability to focus outward and help others. Therefore, I refuse to give up on the pursuit of happiness. As Albert Camus said, the struggle towards the height itself is enough to fill a man's heart. We must imagine Sisyphus happy. But this is only true when we choose so, when we not only try to live a life of virtue but also practice happiness on a daily basis. To do this, it is essential that we first let go of the myth of the arrival, the myth of an imagined utopia both on a societal level and a personal level. Michael Mahoney writes that embedded in the myth of arrival is the message that there will come a day where our struggles, suffering will be finished, where depression, anxiety, anger, stress and all manner of ill-being will finally end, where we will wake up one day and clearly recognize that we have arrived. We will be completely healthy and happy in every part of our lives, our work, finances and relationships. We will be at peace. The fundamental problem with this is that it will never happen, and by following such philosophies, one rejects the here and now. It rejects the world we actually live in, with all its flaws, its ugliness and injustices, yet also with its moments of beauty, kindness and love. The truth that we so often forget is that happiness can only be found in the here and now. As Alan Watts wrote, if happiness always depends on something expected in the future, we are chasing a will-o'-the-wisp that will ever elude our grasp.
Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present.
Now, we know that in recent years, the philosophy of Stoicism has refound new popularity as a daily practice to improve our well-being. One of its basic tenets is that we cannot control much in the world. There is even a lot that we cannot control in our own lives. But what we can control is our interpretation of events. Practicing Stoicism is therefore often talked about as a philosophy to deal with hardships and adversities in life. But I think it is just as important to practice when we experience good moments in our lives. So often we don't fully appreciate those moments because we are distracted by what could be even better. And training the mind to be happy is a skill set and a lifelong practice that should be embarked upon with dedication and excitement. It is so important to train ourselves to experience happiness and to see it as exercise and training, because we are going against our nature, our natural negativity bias and the existential hum that we all have. But it can be done. Now, don't make the mistake of seeing Stoicism or any other philosophy of happiness as a gateway to a true world, another arrival at pure bliss, because there is none. Nor would I claim that external circumstances bear no influence on one's happiness. It is one thing to practice happiness in the face of daily annoyances and frustrations, but it is another to do so in the face of true tragedies and horrific injustices. Although there are people far greater than me that have done so. The purpose of this video is not to give an answer to the question of happiness. It is merely to argue that happiness is worth pursuing, even though there will never be completion. That no matter if in the next 100 years we will create a transhuman utopia where we save the environment and live harmoniously with artificial intelligence, or the world will end in some sort of apocalyptic disaster. Right now, in this very moment, to try to both live virtuously and happy is a worthy pursuit.